Hey guys, Kev here, and it's time for a full review. We got the Brian Brown Knives Yeager-M. That's right, finally, the review. I mean, seriously. But in my kind of fashion, we got one more piece to add. The piece de la résistance. So you'll see this guy right here has a Mokutai backspacer and a Mokutai clip. Blue pivot collars, looking snazzy dazzy do. And this guy, this poor guy just has a Mokutai backspacer and that's it. So what I did was I bought a clip from Adam Purvis. And when I bought that clip, I asked him to do it in a black and gray finish, which he did. I will say it's my first time handling it, and it's very rough. Interesting. I didn't know it could be that rough. This is smooth. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if that's normal. Guess we'll find out. I guess it doesn't matter that it's rough. Maybe that's how he removed the ano or something. I don't know. Let me clean it and see if maybe that's it. If it just needs some alcohol or something. But it could be because of the I don't know how you achieve this finish. Maybe by stripping it, and stripping it may cause it to have this type of feel to it. I don't know. Not my favorite, I could say that. Doesn't look dirty, so I think that's just how it is. We'll see if that bothers me or not, but I would assume you could just, couldn't you just somehow get it finished to where it's not rough like that? I don't know. First, let's make sure it fits and everything. I don't know what's happening. It's like that just slots in. It doesn't bend. This is just see what happens. All right, there we go. See if it's a tapper. No tapping. See how it sits compared to this clip. Sits right on the edge there. This one's a little different. It kind of sits, it's sitting on the inlay, I think. Maybe it just curls around that inlay. I wonder how that's gonna work. Went in my gym shorts. Still works, lefty. Seems to work. Yeah, it's just really odd that it's so rough. I don't know why that's bothering me, but maybe I can, I don't know if it'd be good to sand it or anything. I'll maybe email Adam and just see what he recommends when it comes to this, if anything. But I'll have to test it and see how it goes in pocket. It looks good. So, anyway, there we go. We have the clip mounted. Of course, I still have the old clip if I, for some reason, don't love it. But I think aesthetically it works, right? That was my thing, was I didn't want to put Mokutai on because I just don't think it'll clash with the Brittany, right? It'd be cool to get this to match that, but I don't know. I kind of like how this looks, that blue. So, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit different because you have the Brittany, then you have this, and then you have that. But I don't think, because you're never really looking at them at the same time, so it doesn't really matter to me, I don't think. So, I think we're good to go. The other option would be to put it on this one, but I don't know why I would do that. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get into the full review, guys. So, I have had Yeagers now for a couple months. I mean, it's been since June sometime. Yeah, it was right when, after Blade Show, they started showing up, right? And I had one before that. I had my Carta inlay one a year or so ago, maybe a year and a half at this point, that I only had for like a day or two, and I sold it because I didn't think it worked very well left-handed. And I kind of have to take that back. That was early on in my collecting. It was early on in the channel. It was, you know, I was still really heavily talking about how things have to work perfectly left-handed, or, you know, I'm not going to make any adjustments, like, and I normally still try not to make crazy adjustments, but like in the case of the Yeager, it's not really an obscene adjustment you have to make to get it to work left-handed, so it's not that big of a compromise. So I think I was wrong basically back then. So then when the pre-order came up, I ordered two just because I was like, you know what, I want to try the flipper, I want to try the non-flipper, I want to see what I think. So I got two different versions, and the two versions I got, you know, I wasn't like in love. I got the full plain tie non-flipper, and I got a black PVD satin flipper. And, you know, everybody wants this one. So then when they came in, I started wheeling and dealing, right? I started buying more. I bought like a navy one. I bought a copper camo one. I bought the Tiffany one, and I'm trading and selling them, getting different ones and whatever. And then I do all that, and I had this one, and I had a copper flipper one. And then Fanatic Edge dropped some more of these non-flipper golf putter ones. And, I mean, come on. This is just the coolest looking Yeager. So I had to get that one. And then, you know, so then I sell the copper one. And then I got a Damasteel one to try that. And I ended up selling that, and I stuck with these two. And this is where I've been for the last month or so. And I don't see that changing. I really love both of these in their own way. This Brittany blue, which is really Tiffany green or Tiffany blue, whatever the hell they call it, is utterly just gorgeous, right? And then you throw that pop of color like the Mokutai backspacer and this Zirkutai clip in here, and it's just kind of sets it off, right? I really like that. It's got the blacks in it with the black on the Tiffany. And then this has, you know, the blues and the purples and whatnot, and that kind of goes with it as well, as long as it's an accent, you know what I mean? I don't know, you guys let me know what you think. Is it too much? I'm still debating, because I just put it on, obviously. So I then was able to score a Mokutai kit, and I gave the collars to my good buddy Joe. And I put the kit on here, backspacer, clip, and I think that looks really good with this one. And I've carried the shit out of these guys. I mean, I've probably carried a Yeager more than any other knife since I've gotten the Yeagers. So in the last 2 months, I've had a Yeager in my pocket probably 50% of the time, which is a pretty high number for me. You know, and then when not loaned out, the other, another 30%, 40% maybe is the factor, which luckily is left-hand carry, so I can carry that lefty. So these 3 knives have dominated my pocket. And then if you want to add one more since Blade Show, it would be the Maverick S with that Zircutai everywhere. So these 4 knives have just been absolutely crushing my pocket. And of course I've reviewed knives along the way and all that good stuff, and I carry those and whatnot, but when I can, I've been carrying these knives, and specifically these 2. And I tend to rotate. I don't just carry one of them. I actually do like carrying both. It's one of the only times where I've gotten multiples of a knife and I haven't like just gravitated towards one. Or sometimes what happens is I struggle to pick between them, and then I just don't carry any of them, and then I sell one, or I sell both of the duplicates, because it kind of kills the knife for me because I have 2. It's stupid. But that didn't happen here. So whatever that means to you guys, but let's get into it. So this is the Brian Brown Knives Yeager-M. This is made by Riot. Brian Brown is the designer. I believe it is a custom model that he turned into a production model, and he did the original runs with and then he switched over to Riot, and this is the second batch, I believe, of the Riot versions of them, and it's absolutely fantastic. There's 2,000 of these basically that were made on this run, so there's so many different variations. You could get just plain tie like this, but all titanium. So all plain tie, no blue accents, no milling. You could get that as a flipper or a non-flipper. You could then get the same thing, but with blue pivot collars from Knife Joy. Then you could get a black PVD frame, blue collar, satin blade from Knife Joy. Then you could get black PVD frame, blue collar, black PVD blade from Knife Joy. And all of these, everything I say comes in flipper and non-flipper. So those are the Knife Joy ones. I don't know if Knife Joy did a run with black micarta. I think they might have done a run with black micarta and satin like they did. It was their exclusive before. They also had a Damasteel run with the black PVD, I believe, blue collars, and Damasteel from Knife Joy. Then Brian Brown himself did pre-orders for this version, which again came in flipper, non-flipper, and you could get an assortment of this camo carbon. You had this Brittany, you had a sunset orange, you had a copper, you had a navy, you had just a black camo carbon. I don't know if I'm missing any. And then he also had, like I said, a full titanium plain tie, everything. Even the collars were this plain tie. Flipper, non-flipper he did. Then he had a Facebook group exclusive with rich light and zirconium accents. Then EDC Foundry had like a micarta version with Damasteel blade and stonewashed titanium. They also had their other one with the micarta and the PVD blade. There's just so many versions that were on this pre-order. And then, of course, you had Fanatic Edge that did this golf putter one. So there's like 10 or 11 variants of this knife, all in non-flipper and flipper. Just crazy. So pricing started at $330 for just plain titanium from Brian Brown. And then the camo carbon ones were like $375. The Knife Joy ones were like $340 in the basic finish. Then the Damasteel ones were like $585. So it went all the way up. And then the Fanatic Edge, this one was $500. And then the kits were like $170 if you got a full kit in Mokutai or I think Zircutai. You also had zirconium kits. And then he also sold those in pieces. I mean, it's insane the customization you could do on this knife. I got this clip from Purvis or Adam Purvis. He makes clips. separately, so you could do that as well. There's also somebody, I think it's called High Grain Design or High Grain Leather, something like that. They actually make inlays. So you can buy these inlays, whatever material you want, and then you can glue them in. I don't know if he does it for you or if you do it for yourself, but you can obviously replace these and then epoxy them in or whatever, which is pretty cool. So let's finally do the review. I really apologize, guys. 15 minutes in. I have a lot to say about this knife. It's one of the knives I have the most experience with, so I'm gonna talk about it, right? Aesthetically, I think it's one of the coolest looking knives there is, and it's almost in a simplistic way. Like, yes, it's aggressive and whatnot, but it's a crazy Wharncliffe blade with a beautiful hole and a pretty simple handle design. I mean, it's got a swell here and then a little in swell, and it comes back. I guess it's not very simple. I don't know. It just, to me, seems a little bit simple. And I think that's what makes it so good to me. It's a very straight design. And it's going to come down to how the ergonomics fit your hand, right? I mean, that's one of the big things. But this ridiculous hollow grind, this stupid thin tip, the shape of the hole, the fact that it is a hole deployment knife, all of those things is what really adds it up for me, right? And then you add on top of that the unique inlays and finishes and stuff, and it really just, I don't know, it sets this knife off a little bit. There's just something about the design that speaks to me and clearly speaks to plenty of other people, right? So aesthetically, I think it's an absolutely sexy knife. What don't I like aesthetically? I don't love the edge termination. That's not my favorite look. I kind of wish it was a full choil here. Like, I wish this was kind of cut in and you actually had like a full finger to put in. But it works, so it's not that big of a deal. That's really it in terms of aesthetics that I don't love. So yeah, let's talk about ergonomics. So in terms of ergonomics, it's an interesting design because if you hold it back here, it actually doesn't feel like you have that much grip. I have a large glove size hand and I barely fit all four on there, but I can. Now, I don't normally hold the knife like this. I go up onto this flat, which personally is why I prefer the non-flipper. But I will say, if you have a flipper or if you've handled a flipper, the way he designed the flipper is it's flat. So the flipper comes up to here, but it's straight across. It's not a traditional style flipper where, do I have any? There, here's my Grimsmo Rask. It's not a traditional style flipper where it's kind of like a fin, right? It doesn't come out of the scale and kind of like, you know, if you put pressure on it, it's going to be awkward, right? On the Yeager flippers, it's not like that. It's actually just a straight across flipper. So you can actually just rest on top of it, no problem. And it actually kind of almost has more of a choil than the non-flipper here does. So you can get into this area, I think, better on the flipper. But on the non-flipper, you just rest back here and you're good to go. So ergonomically, I think it's very comfortable. It's not like the most ergonomic knife in the world or anything, but just the way it kind of hits my hand. There's not a big gap here. Like, my fingers are kind of close together, but they're comfortably close together. I don't have a ton of knife sticking out because it's not a huge knife, right? Like, this knife, I think, has a 3.4-inch blade, something like that. It's not this huge blade or anything. All right, so I'm looking at 3 3.25 to the handle, right? 3 inches, just a little over 3 cutting edge. And then on your handle, you're looking at 4.25. So 4.25 and 3.25, right? You don't have this huge, you don't have this huge knife. It's 7.5 inches. Like, if I take my my own design, the stout, out, it's going to be a little bit bigger, I think. And I wouldn't have guessed that. Yeah. So, almost identical, honestly. We have 3.3 inches of blade, and we have 7.75 overall. I mean, these are damn near close, but you can basically chop off like a 1/16 of an inch on each end that the stout has extra on the Yeager there. And they do have similar profiles in terms of the handle. When you hold it in this grip, it doesn't feel like you have the most room on there. But then when you get into that choil, it's super comfortable. It's the same kind of concept. I didn't actually think about those being comparable. So I think the ergonomics are really comfortable on this knife. I enjoy them. Pinch grip is really good on this guy. I can climb up like this. This grip is really comfortable. If you're going to get into a gas station fight, sure, you could do this, but maybe this reverse grip, yeah, this would feel really good because you have this kind of angled thing right here. You could fend off Slurpee chuckers or whatever you want to do. So let's talk about cutting then. To me, what you have to realize about this knife is with this deep hollow grind, this is not, this is not going to be your hard use knife, in my opinion, because that tip is very, very dainty. You can roll this pretty easily. I've actually heard of people like Knapp Sergeant roll their edge. He was just cutting like thick. He was cutting like the corner of cardboard, which, yeah, that stuff's thick, but still, it's M390 steel. It should be able to get through that pretty well. But he rolled like the edge from here forward all the way up. Like, it was crazy how bad he rolled it. So you're not going to want to do like heavy use stuff with this, but for utility cutting, which is what I do, cutting shipping labels, cutting normal cardboard, cutting paper, cutting shapes out, stuff like that, right? Even some of the food prep, like cutting fruit and stuff I've done, cutting some stuff for dinner, just basic shit, right? EDC shit, getting into packages. This excels at that because it has this very thin, hollow grind with a penetrating tip, but not like a crazy penetrating tip, right? It has enough to get in there, slice, and get out. I find it to be one of the most useful blade shapes that I have. And that's why I love a sheep's foot blade. You guys know that. Because it's my kind of knife to cut with. So cutting shipping labels, this thing just destroys them. I can go through, 6 or 7 of them without, any problem with this. And opening Amazon boxes, packages, cutting them down for the recycle or whatever. All of it is just super easy with this knife. I really enjoy the cutting on it. Now I've had like 7 or 8 at this point. So, like, I can't really speak to the edge longevity. I can't speak to the M390 heat treat or anything because I just haven't used one of them long enough to find out, if that makes sense. But as far as I can tell, it's really good. I haven't had to strop or sharpen or do anything to these. But I also haven't done the craziest stuff with, either of these repeatedly. You know what I mean? So I would say cutting is fantastic. I think it's a tried and true design when it comes to that. Carry is also really good. So far I've had no problem with carry. Now this one with this clip is to be seen, right? But with the stock clip, no issue. They pop in, they pop out. They fit pretty snug like they do. The clip fits pretty snug, so it doesn't go anywhere, doesn't shake, rattle, doesn't rock or anything in your pocket. It does take a little bit. You got to, pull it out. It doesn't just slide in and out, but it pops in and comes out relatively easily. I think the carry is phenomenal. I think the weight is excellent. If you look inside, there is milling all up in this guy on both sides. It's very milled out. I would assume this knife weighs around 3.8 ounces. 3.8 ounces would be my guess. Maybe, yeah, I'm going to go with 3.8. And then this one maybe weighs, 3.9, something like that. Maybe a little bit more just because it has the inlays on it, where this one is milled out and, I don't know. Who knows? Or maybe because of this clip, it weighs more. I have no idea. Just guessing, but it's right around that 4-ounce mark would be my thought, which is perfect for this size knife. In my opinion, it's great. The sounds, this is one of the knives that is known for its acoustics. It does not translate on camera, I don't believe. Now they do sound different. This one gets more of the tings and everything. And this one is a little more of a slap. It's interesting. But I love both. I have no issue with either. I don't need the ting sound, but it definitely sounds cool when it happens. I don't know if it's because of the inlay or whatever, or because the detent's a little bit stronger on this one. Maybe that's why it has that bang a little bit better. But, they do sound just a tad different. Let me just clean these up. See a little oil on there. All right. So action / fidget factor, which is, probably the biggest thing for me on these. They're phenomenal, guys. Now, again, I've had a ton of these, and I've owned 7 or 8, and I've handled like 20 at this point, right, of this new batch. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, the detents are all over the place. I mean, it's not even funny. Riot has really kind of struggled with this one, in my opinion. I've had ones that barely pop out. They're super light detents. And then I've had ones that, like this one, where it's like I almost have to fight it out, right? And it's interesting, And now I've learned how to adjust the detent. I have a video on that. I would not recommend doing it. Talk to Brian Brown. Do whatever. Don't do anything because I say I did it. But I have adjusted the detent on a couple of them successfully. And it is pretty easy. But you got to be careful. And I'm tempted to do it on this one just to lighten it up a touch. But honestly, also don't want to because I do like how it feels. So, like, some days I'm like, I'm feeling a stronger detent and I'll grab this one. And some days I'm like, I'll just go for the perfect one, and I'll grab this one. This one, in my opinion, has a perfect detent. It pops out, no problem. It's not light in any way. It feels satisfying when it breaks that detent, right? Got to stay off the lock bar for the thumb flick. It feels very satisfying. Now, this one is just a little stronger. That's the only way to put it. Is it just has a stronger detent. I don't know if you can see it. Hear that clack in. And that one's a little less, it's more of a thud. So, I don't know. It's hard to tell, of course, through camera, but I can feel it, and they're all different. So I would just say, slight warning, if you get one of these, it's possible you get one with a light detent. I've had ones with flippers that actually have weaker detents than non-flippers. It's been all over the place. Now, Brian Brown has been absolutely fantastic to work with, guys. I could not imagine having 2,000 knives out there and having to deal with something like a detent that's off here and there, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who just don't care. They got theirs and they just love the knife. They're not like me and care about detents, but there's also plenty of people that do. And I'm sure he's gotten plenty of messages, and to keep up with all that and the way he's managed it, the guy is phenomenal, and his customer service is absolutely top notch. I had one Brittany that I sent him to adjust the the lock bar on. He actually did it for me and adjusted the lock bar before I got the balls to do it myself. Then I had another Brittany, this one. Well, it was the old one. I sent it in because there was like cracks in the carbon fiber. And he's like, damn, I don't know how I didn't catch that. He's like, send it in, I can sand it down or whatever. I sent it in, and he, in Brian Brown fashion, he like dropped it or something and fucking chipped. He like fucked the scale up or whatever. So he had to replaced it for me. And that's how I got this one. And this one has the stronger detent, so I'm fine with it. But I have sent him multiple knives, not just this knife. I've sent, items. I've also sent my driver in a couple times for stuff. And the guy's customer service and warranty work is absolutely top notch. He's a knife maker, so it helps a lot. Like, he could fix things that I might not be able to fix if, you had an issue with one of my knives. I'm not saying I wouldn't fix it. That's why I would just have extras of things. But it's good to know that he can just take care of it, right? So anyway, the customer service is fantastic. But anyway, the detents have varied. The centering on almost all of the ones I've handled has been just off to the clip side. Now, this one is like really, 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 really close, but it's still slightly off to this side. Some of the other ones I've handled are farther off to the clip side. And that, to me, just kind of became normal. Like, that was just how they were, because they all were like that. Then I got this one, and this one is just off to the show side. You could maybe argue that for dead nuts. And guys, they're both extremely close. But I'm just a super duper nitpicker. And I got one leaning this way and one leaning that way, but it's so slight, and I love the knives so much, I just let it go a long time ago. The closing action on these, they're not guillotines. You can put skiffs in if you want. I actually have both of these on stock bearings because I didn't find the skiffs actually did anything. Sure, they're smooth, but these stock bearings are the plastic cage ones, and they're very good in my opinion. But you're going to get, if you tune it right, you're going to get a nice swing down like that, and then smooth shake down. And that's because it has a good detent. If the detent were way lighter, it would probably swing down. But it's just the nature of the design being such a lightweight blade with that hollow grind, and then you have that good detent, so it's not going to guillotine shut. And then I have this one with the stronger detent, which means what? The lock bar is a little stiffer. So it's a little harder to push that lock bar out of the way because it has more tension, but still swings down. Still a smooth shakedown. Is one better than the other? This one might be just a hair smoother feeling because it has less lock bar pressure. Because of that stronger detent, it applies more pressure. So on the reverse, when you're disengaging, this one is a lot easier to push aside and then shake down, where, because it has that stronger detent, this one just needs a little more pressure to get out of the way. Neither are a problem, neither are a pain. Both are fantastic. Guys, I love these knives so much. These right now, to me, are both keepers. Whatever that means in my world, but I absolutely love the Brian Brown Knives Yeager-M, guys. This is one of the best, if not the best, production knife on the market right now. And you can get them. You might not be able to, pull up to Knife Joy and pick one up on the website, but you can get them. Go to the Facebook group. They're being sold on there constantly. And it's not because it's a bad knife. The price is down right now, too. Not because it's a bad knife, guys. It's because there's 2,000 of them out there, and you have so many people who have bought them, and people need money because they lost their job, or they just need money. Something came up, medical bills, a pet gets hurt, whatever. You got to sell knives sometimes, and you got to sell good knives sometimes. So I say, get one while you can for a good price in the Facebook group or on Reddit. I see them on Reddit routinely. You can get the regular ones for like $300 right now. You can get these inlay ones for like $350. you know, it's just a no-brainer to pick one of these up, in my opinion. I absolutely love the Brian Brown Yeager-M. Once again, fantastic knife. Possibly my favorite knife to come out this year that, you know, it's not a new model for this year, so it can't be knife of the year, but probably my favorite of the knives that have dropped this year or came in this year, whatever you want to, however you want to put it. But I think this is the end of Yeagerville, guys. I think this is going to be the last video you see of the Yeagers, unless it's a collection video or a top this video or whatever. But I finally did the review. It's like the 10th Yeager video, and I'm finally doing it. So you're welcome. No, I'm just kidding. I love you guys. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. And let me know what you think about the Yeager-M down in the comments. And I will catch you later.